Coming from somebody with no art background, I've got no engineering background. I just had this idea and this vision to create one-of-a-kind pieces of furniture and decor using copper, brass, and some other metals.
Welcome back to another episode of Intrepidus Podcast with your hosts, Dan and Anthony. Today we have Greg Epstein from Vintage Metal Design. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Anthony. Very nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
I was distracted by your logos up there. It's a beautiful logo. Tell us a little bit about Vintage. Clearly, you make handcrafted furniture and decor, and you make some beautiful stuff. But tell us a little bit about the company, how you got started.
So Vintage Metal Designs was, the idea was birthed October 19th of last year while sitting at my buddy's table in his man cave, beautiful home, Little Silver right on the water. I had this epiphany. I'd been sitting at this table for years and years. It's a beautiful industrial crank table. And I said to myself, I used to get these brass gears all the time in the scrap business. And I'd said to myself, I could build this table, only I could build it better. It's wood top. It should be glass because the beauty is really in the gears and the mechanism. And for a couple days thereafter, I started researching, Googling recycled copper and furniture, and there was really nothing out there. I came across one piece, which was like new production, probably 3/4-inch copper tubing. And it was just the base of a table, no glass top. And they were asking like $3,000. And I said to myself, whoa, $3,000. I said, I could build that. The next day I went to Home Depot, bought some tubing. I built the same exact base, and it cost me $120. And at that moment I said, all right, you're onto something. Keep looking. And I just kept looking and looking, and I found really nothing. And then my mind started going with the cool pieces of copper that I would typically come across in my recycling work that could be used. I come across a ton of electrical gear, heavy industrial electrical gear that's coming out of data centers. So the size of the copper coming out of some of these pieces of equipment was massive, stuff that's never been seen before. And I started accumulating some inventory just so I could get creative and play around with different styles and designs. And coming from somebody with no art background, I couldn't tell you the difference between, the different types of art. And I've got no engineering background. I just had this idea and this vision to create one-of-a-kind pieces of furniture and decor using copper, brass, and some other metals. And I spent the next 5 months convincing myself that this was something I could actually achieve, which was the hardest part. Again, I hear you guys talk all the time, being comfortable, making yourself comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That is so much easier said than done.
Sure is.
Nobody likes being uncomfortable. It's a horrible feeling for most, and most can't even take it, But for me, those 5-6 months, it was all about me, right? I had gone through some tough times over the last 5 years or so. I lost my younger brother, actually 6 years ago today. So today is
Today's the anniversary.
Today is the anniversary.
Well,
So
honored for you to be on the show during an anniversary. Sorry to hear that.
It was a tough morning, but at the same time, I'm here to celebrate the kid, right? He battled addiction for almost 20 years. That would crush most families. As a parent now, I've got 2 boys in their teens. So this is stuff you're thinking about differently as a parent compared to as a brother. The fact on my right over here, I was just, I was bawling, just trying to get it all out before coming out here.
Right.
And, I was thinking about my parents, and they survived. They're still happily married, and they made it. As a parent, it's the worst thing. That's your worst nightmare
Bury your
come
child,
true.
right? I can only
Right?
imagine.
losing a child.
My brother battled addiction for like 20 years. He's been sober for like the last 4 or 5 years now.
Congrats to him.
Tough though. He was on his end road, bro. He was at rock bottom. You know what I mean? He was the skinniest he's ever been and the most strung out he's ever been. And it was just like, now or never. And fortunately enough, he made it. But the hard problem is dealing with all these people who deal with addiction. People don't realize like how much it takes over your brain, how much it takes over your life. And, you're not the same person trying to execute day in and day out because you're dependent on other things and nothing else matters but getting that high, right? Take us back to like, obviously in October, you looked at this opportunity, you thought about it, you manifested it, however it came about, and you took yourself in a 5-month position where you had to get yourself ready, connected, and wanting to launch this thing because you had to, convince yourself, as you said. But most people wouldn't wait 5 months to make money or 5 months to start an opportunity or 5 months to start a business and start creating income. So this takes me back that you clearly have some kind of entrepreneurial background. You have some business background prior to this opportunity that you're launching now. So take us back to like where it all started, maybe when you first realized that, you wanted to hustle throughout your life. You wanted to be an entrepreneur. You wanted to be a business owner. Where did that all start?
That all started back in early childhood. I'd say like 12 years old is when myself, my older brother, and my next door neighbor started pounding the pavement, hustling, shoveling driveways, and wishing for snow. First winter, we crushed it. Second winter, in October, November, we threw a couple hundred flyers into mailboxes in our development and 2 of the neighboring ones. So by December, we already had a list of people who had called saying, it snows anytime in the winter, come here. Here's my address. So at 12 years old, we already had clients who had called us. We didn't have cell phones back then. It was mom. Hey, you got a message. Someone over in the paddock club wants you to shovel their driveway. Perfect. So I remember, I think it was like the winter of '93. We had that crazy blizzard. We got like a couple feet of snow.
Was it 96 or no?
There was one in '93 because that
I think
day,
it was 96. My brother was born.
They had the biggest one in 96. It was like 24 inches, right? Like
it
for a couple days straight.
That was wild.
But 93 they did have one, but I don't think it was as big.
wasn't as big, but it froze. Everything froze, and we were able to play hockey. You were able to walk on it, and that, I think it was a Saturday. My father had gotten us tickets to the NIT tournament at the Garden, and we parked at the Matawan train station, pending blizzard. Went into the Garden, watched some basketball. I remember eating pizza in Penn Station with my brothers, and this is '92. So my younger brother was 8, older brother was 14. And we didn't get home till like 2, 3 in the morning because the trains all got delayed because of this blizzard. So when we finally get back to Matawan, our car is snowed in. And here we are, us 4, digging it out with our bare hands to try and get home. And we finally did get home, and the next day or 2, we shoveled. And I remember, you remember those old saving account deposit books?
Yeah.
That I used to have? That winter, I deposited upwards of like $1,200 as a 13-year-old kid. And at that point, I was rich, right? Yeah. And it wasn't just me. It was my brother and my neighbor. So collectively, we probably pocketed like $3-4 grand for the winter as a 12-year-old.
That's awesome.
Beautiful. So why copper? Like, how did you get involved in copper?
It just so happened to be copper. My father had a very successful career, 30-plus years in the recycling business on the brokerage side. Paper, plastic, cardboard, biofuels on a global scale. Big business. So I was in recycling plants.
His business, or he worked with somebody?
His business.
Gotcha.
He was a partner in a company that was actually sold to a Swedish trading conglomerate back in 2004. So that was like his exit. And he stayed on for like 15 years.
Wow.
Which is unheard of.
Contractually, or he just decided he's going to...
They contractually kept him around for 15 years.
Whoa.
Renewal. Typically, you're 3 years and you're out. Just to give you an idea of how important and valuable he was to the division that he was in charge of running.
He must have loved it too if he continued, even though he got to sell himself probably a pretty nice exit.
He did. And now he's still a little involved, talks to his old buddies. India was his market, which was a huge market for the business. So I've got family basically in India. You know, his agent that worked with him exclusively for like 25 years. And if you're successful in India, you know, in this type of a business, their whole family is in the business. You know, so this relationship is taken care of a family of 50.
So then fast forward, you partnered up in the copper recycling business.
Yep.
Talk about that, because I'm sure you saw a lot of things that like made, when you're talking about knowing about copper and some of the rare stuff that you've ever seen, you've had to see a lot of stuff back when you had that company as well, right?
Yeah, so first got into the copper business in like 2011, 2012, came in as a consultant, having no knowledge whatsoever of scrap metal. I was just fascinated by it because it was another form of recycling. It wasn't what my father did, but it was something that I could talk to him about and, you know, just get some knowledge of trading, the recycling business, and just how it ebbs and flows. And I loved it. I just fell in love with copper, and I wasn't really good at it at first. I wasn't successful in finding the electricians, the solar companies. My nickname was Magneto because all I could find was steel that we really didn't make money on. But like anything, you just put in the time and you make the phone calls and you send the emails and you're just out there. Like mornings at Wawa were so much fun for me. I'd go in there, I'd buy coffee for contractors, buy a breakfast sandwich. I'd sit in the parking lot for 15, 20 minutes, hand out some cards. All the contractor vehicles would go there. And then at lunchtime, same thing. You know, so before I'd even get to work, I might pick up 1 or 2 new customers. And that wasn't just something I did. My partner would do it. And it was something that we enjoyed doing, that, you know, we would try and constantly one-up each other. Like, oh, well, who'd you get today? You know, we would get out of cars at stoplights and run and give the electrician a card 2 cars over. You know, you do what you got to do.
Back in the day, yep.
You know, what's the worst thing they could say? Get lost? Okay. I just got out of my car to try and say hello to you and do something good, and you're, all right, I don't want you as a customer.
Okay, so you were in the copper industry, trading and recycling. You exited that. And then what gave you the vision for your first piece of furniture with Vintage?
I guess it was something that it had to have been in my mind somewhere, just like literally sitting there, just waiting to come out. And last September, so once I got into the scrap metal copper business and I learned about it, I had this idea of going in and actually getting hired to do the removal of the valuable copper stuff, whether it's equipment, wire, whatever it may be. The owner hires us to remove it, we get paid, and then we buy it and we get paid. So it's a win-win for both of us. I wanted to take that even further, get into some of these larger scale buildings that have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds of copper, if not millions, and structure these deals with the owners of the equipment. And that evolved pretty quickly. By like 2014, we had our first big demo job in a data center that we really had no business doing in the first place. We were unqualified, inexperienced, you know, but thankfully my partner was a local 400 electrician and had electrical background. So he was our safety net. And what's crazy is that particular job was for Merrill Lynch in Manhattan, in the St. John building, which was an old train terminal that went over Houston Street on the West Side Highway. And Merrill Lynch's data center was on one side, which we demolished in 2014, I believe. And then fast forward to 2017, the other side was Bloomberg, their main terminal, which was like a 400,000 square foot data center that had 40 megs of backup power on the roof, that had parallel switchgear running, that had more conduit and copper wire than I've ever seen before. And I was able to secure that job as well.
Very nice.
So I was able to go back into the Merrill Lynch space, walk it, envision what was there from 4 years ago to help me quantify what was actually in the Bloomberg space. And, you know, I'm really good at being able to quantify what's in that building. So it's the ability to know what's inside the pipes, lineal footage, estimated pounds per foot, and then doing one big calculation to say, all right, I've got X amount of this, I've got X amount of that, I've got, what's the value of it? How much time is it going to take to extract? And then work backwards to structure a deal that's beneficial to all parties. So I was successful in doing that, and going back to what triggered it, last September I was in Chicago doing a demo job for the owners of Bell Works in Homedale, a client of mine for about the last like 10 plus years. In 2015 or 14, we removed about 500,000 pounds of cable for Somerset out of Bell Works. So before that building turned into what it is today, there was like one person in that building. The roofs were leaking. There were garbage cans all over the lobby, and it was just a complete disaster. So being able to see where it's come from where it's been is really gratifying to me. It's a cool spot.
Yeah,
It's awesome there. It's very nice.
So about 6-7 years ago, Somerset bought a very similar property out in Chicago. And this was during the pandemic. I had actually gone out there to inspect and do my walkthrough. And 4 years later, I was back in the building to actually do the project.
Wow.
So that was like last September. And it was when I was on that job, their chief technology officer had shown me a picture of a piece of artwork someone built for Bell Works here in Jersey, using some of the old components coming out of the telecom rooms and mirrors. And this piece was amazing. And I think it was that, which came in like September 6th, that just triggered something in my brain, which led to this October 19th moment where I had finally said to myself, all right, it's time.
Very interesting. So how does one even, not that it's your main business right now, but I'm curious, how does one even get the opportunity to bid on a demo project like that?
It's your network. That's all it is.
Someone called you up one day and said, hey, do you know anybody? And like, yeah, I do it.
Yep.
Okay. Just been around the block. Like you said, you put in the time, built your network.
As much as I've sold that scrap business years and years ago, I've still kept in contact with a lot of my really influential, powerful A people.
Gotcha.
And now that I'm back in the business and I'm looking for those opportunities and I'm telling everybody and anybody I talk to that, hey, I'm back. If you hear anything, let me know.
Okay, so in September, you went to this demo project. Something clicked. October came. Whatever you manifested in your mind became reality. How'd you build your first piece of furniture? What gave you the vision to build whatever it was? Explain whatever it is that you built, and from there, what was your next steps?
So the layout of like those first two tables was interesting to say the least.
Coffee tables?
The first one was an end table,
End,
and its baby brother was a coffee table.
Okay.
The coffee table was all copper tubing. I had pulled out some pieces out of a 15-ton crack unit out of a data center, and I had the legs, which were perfect.
Go ahead and explain what a crack unit is, because I'm sure someone's going to listen to this and be like, what?
What's a crack unit? It's a air conditioning unit.
Okay.
CRAC, computer room air condition.
Okay.
That's what it is. 15-ton, 30-ton. They're massive air conditioning units, and there could be
There's copper in there.
plenty of copper tubing. And these were all water-cooled units, so there was no glycol or any real chemicals in it.
Right.
I was able to extract the copper tubing out and had no idea how I was going to be able to attach the horizontals and piece this all together. Again, I've very little building background, and so I would have my friends come over, my mechanic, my buddies that are super handy, and I would just ask them questions because I didn't know. And that's something I do very well, and most successful people do, is when you don't know, you ask. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And so that table gave me more problems than you could ever imagine, because I almost feel like it's impossible to get it perfectly square, because I was able to rivet the copper tubing together, so the table is strong as can be. But I spent days and days trying to get it perfectly square, and I think it's impossible. So that was one table. And the second table, it was, it was wild. I put together a few pieces of wood with just some nails to do a little mock-up that I still have. And I just laid out these copper pieces. I put the wood on top of the legs, and I said, all right, this is it. And it was like, I drop it off at the carpenter. A couple weeks go by, I get it back. And it was then that one table I got back from the carpenter that was made out of wood that I had him inlay the pieces across the top, and there wasn't even a single screw used in the table. And the copper pieces were gorgeous. And it was then where this finished product was sitting in my, now it was in like my hallway. And I was like, all
Couldn't stop staring at it, I bet.
I'm like, you were right. You built it. You know, now you got to sell it. Now you got to find the market for it. So
here's something pretty awesome about entrepreneurship. Listen to you talk. You had this first table. It was almost impossible for you to even get it square, figure it out, frustrating. It was driving you nuts. Right? So when you look at entrepreneurship, everyone tries to start their business, figure their business out, do everything on their own. But what you learned quickly with the second table was, I'm not good at this. How do I find someone who's good at this? Allow them to be my resource and create what it is my vision is, and then turn that into my experience. So I think one of the biggest problems in entrepreneurship is, as the business owner, we have so much pride. As the entrepreneur, we have so much pride. We want to do everything. We want to take credit for everything because this is our idea. And if we let somebody else do it, it's just not the same. But when you look at the real winners in the world, like Elon Musk and all these different people, they have the idea, but they're not the operation. So you did that very, very quickly, and you allowed yourself to be the person with the idea, the person with the vision, and you outsource it to the people who can help you build that vision. So how was that process when you actually gave it to the carpenter? Because after the frustration of the first one where you tried to figure it all out and do it yourself, like, where did it come to a point where you're like, you know what, like, I just can't do this. And if I'm going to make this thing work, I got to find that guy or that guy who's going to help me do it. Like, what was that pivot point?
it was easy, you know, because I've always been like a team guy, you know, focus on what your strengths are and then fill in the spots where you need help. And I'm okay with laying off things to others. You know, I'm a control freak like most alpha entrepreneurs, but to a point. You know, I'm not going to be a control freak over something that isn't in my wheelhouse. So, you know, I brought in a team of marketers and branding experts because I have no social media background. I don't even post. I don't really know how to. Nor do I even check with my team what they're going to post, because over the last 6 months, there has been so much trust that has been built that my guys are my guys. They're an extension of me, and you talk to him, it's like talking to me. So with that being said, like, you know, there's only so much I could do. And we're just talking about the furniture stuff right now. You know, I've got a scrap metal business. I've got a basketball team venture that we're talking about. I've got a distillery that we're talking about. The plate, we graduated from having a full plate to a platter. An old timer said that to me just last week. But it's one bite at a time, you know, and you get to pick and choose what's most important, you know. So that being said, you know, the VMD puts me in such a happy place when I get to go into my laboratory and tinker around with my copper and create things. That's, you know, that's my sanctuary.
It's so funny. I just told one of my coaching clients, I said, I talked about the full plate. I used almost the same analogy. I was like, bro, like if you go get a full plate of food, it's for you. You eat it all up. You eat everything. You feel like shit when you're done. Like you've stuffed yourself. But if you have a platter and you're serving others and you're getting others to eat at the table with you, every single person gets a bite. Every single person gets a try. Every single person gets to fill up. But you're not overfilling. They're not overfilling because you're all serving each other. This is the way business needs to be ran. I literally just talked about that like 2 days ago.
Fact.
It's pretty crazy.
It's a fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
And during like that 5-6 month transition I had, like I said, it was all about me. I had to take a time out from my life and figure me out, what I wanted, and that was not being present for months and months at a time. I've got 2 young kids. They knew Dad's in the garage. Don't bother him. I've got an extra bedroom downstairs. 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week, I'd be sleeping down there because I'd come in at midnight, 1 o'clock, and, manifest before bedtime. Manifest an acceptance speech to Best New Artist at the age of 45 after I saw that video from Jelly Roll, the performer who won, Best New Country Artist. Like that guy doesn't know, but I watched and manifested his acceptance speech for a month and a half.
How do you get your family wrapped into this whole like, hey, Dad's busy, your wife, hey, I'm busy, I'm doing my thing in the garage, just let me be and you guys do your thing while I do my thing. How do you get your family wrapped up in that?
The wife is the easier part because she's got her hands full. She's got a full-time job and a side hustle as well, which takes up some hours at nighttime. And my kids are 11 and 13, so now they're more independent, at least in the house. But that didn't stop practices, games, tournaments. My older son plays high-level travel ice hockey, which puts me in a hotel 30 nights a year. My little guy just started playing travel baseball. He was playing travel soccer. Now he's wrestling full-time. The schedule, it doesn't matter, what's going on in your work life during your work hours. After work, you're a father, you've got responsibilities, and you got to do it with a smile. But the kids understood what was happening to some extent. I was telling them along the process and sharing with them my journey, and they got to see it firsthand. In December, I started researching the Reading train terminal in Philadelphia. I had these bronze bolts that I was using in a piece to secure some glass to an awesome table I designed. And I started researching the terminal to see if there were any artists, any, theater people, anybody tied to that world that rode that train that I might be able to connect with, and there'd be some historical significance. That table got me invited to exhibit at the National Museum of Industrial History in Bethlehem, PA, back in June.
Awesome.
So I started researching these bolts in December, knowing that there was a connection. And come June, that connection got me an invite to the museum, which
That's
was awesome.
So do you see any of your, any entrepreneurial traits in your kids being that, come from a long line of it, really? Your father was an entrepreneur, business owner, successful. Your wife seems to be hustling nonstop, so picking up a side gig, and then you're on your, God, I don't even know what number venture you're on right now, but you've been through it. So, do you see any of these traits that maybe you recognized as yourself as a kid when you were plowing for snow in 1993? Do you see the same thing in your kids, or is it completely different?
They are cut from the same cloth, and I am so happy. My older one, the kids help out wifey, doing whatever she needs, they earn. My older son helps me out. He earns. He hustles, and he's like a math wizard. My little guy, he's got a shoe cleaning business. Kids wear, yeah.
Like the Jordans and shit, right?
Yeah, you know what he does? He steps on all my shoes, on my feet all the time. And then he
Then
says,
charges
Dad,
you?
can I clean them? I'll give you a deal.
It's funny.
So yeah, they're definitely entrepreneurial.
So what's next? Like, where do you see yourself, let's say, like 2, 3, 5 years from now? Like, what's your vision for what it is that you're doing now?
All right, so the vision 3-5 years down the road here, Vintage metal designs will be will be known all over the world. Will be highly sought after by clients to do crazy types of projects. I've got not just furniture and decor, but I've got ideas for, landscapes, hardscapes, using some of the coolest recycled metals that you've ever seen. On tomorrow, I'm actually heading out to Pittsburgh for a couple days to go spend 2 days at a scrapyard that's been around almost 100 years.
Super industrial town, Pittsburgh.
Homer City. Very industrial.
I've been there. It's pretty great. The train tracks there, the bridges there are crazy, bro.
Homer City.
I have never seen so much scrap in my life at this place. And now tomorrow and Wednesday, I get to walk around the place like it's mine and go shop.
I think Pittsburgh's like the industrial capital.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's crazy out there. It's pretty sick.
Homer City. Yeah, never heard of it.
All of Pittsburgh's just pretty sick.
It's just a little like east
Gotta get out there.
of Pittsburgh. Yeah. But it's out there. It's like a 5.5 hour ride.
Is this the oldest in the country?
Nah, there's probably some
Over 100
around
years?
100 years.
Really?
Close to it.
This metal's been around a while. So.
Yeah.
Those are the types of places I need to be at.
Yeah.
Office has the old carpet, the old wood panel walls.
Yeah, you're gonna see stuff before stuff was integrated. It's like some of the coolest shit that you've ever seen.
It's unreal. And I got my
So
camera
what's your
guy.
goal when you're going there?
Just to find some really, really cool stuff. That's
That you
it.
could build with.
Yep. I was there back in April. So much has changed since then in terms of my designs, where I want to go with it, to where now going back 6 months later, it's like, all right, I'm the same person, but I'm looking through it a little through a different lens, where there's certain things that I'm thinking of now that I wasn't even thinking of were even possible back in like April.
So let's talk about. We just did something together. You had a piece that you were at a golf outing. It was a golf outing, right? And you did an auction. You got a few different, I guess, nonprofits and charities involved, and other individuals to get something out there. So is your goal to take these pieces and raffle them off? And obviously, your business needs to make money, but are you like, what's your give back look like? Like, what are you trying to do with that?
The give back is a huge part of it. I'm creating this platform that's going to allow me to share my story and give back a lot. Whether it's financially through, auctioning off pieces or just tying in, nonprofits to certain events. That's a huge goal of mine, to get the message out that, don't give up. There's hope. 45 years old, I just found, my calling, my passion. And I don't like going to, like, what keeps you up at night? I heard you talking about
He's
that.
gonna ask it. He's gonna
I
ask
was
you.
just thinking about that question. I was like,
So might as well ask yourself that question.
Yeah, so Greg, what keeps you up at night? And I heard you guys, last
At least we
week,
could tell he's an intrepidus
yeah,
listener.
he's a listener. Love it.
my designs. I don't let,
I can imagine.
I don't let the bad stuff keep me up at night. I figure that all out before I get into bed, because that's a killer.
It's the new stuff, the stuff going forward. What's it going to look like? Oh, I could do this. I
Yep.
could change the legs here.
And that puts me at ease.
How many times have you jumped out of bed or like grabbed your phone, or because you can't sleep because you're thinking of an idea?
It
and you're
happens.
jotting it down, right?
I usually like going to the gym first thing in the morning, but typically sometimes I'll wake up and I'm not ready for the gym. It's work. Something happened, I'm up, something came to mind, or something far more important than getting that pump I'm dealing with right now.
And you said that you're not an artist, which I find fascinating, because I'm definitely not, and I would never imagine building and designing furniture. I could barely draw a fucking stick figure.
Me
right?
too.
But and it seems that way. But everything that you're saying, especially like what Dan had just asked, he said you get up, like, you have an idea, and you say you go to bed with ideas, and like you're picturing these things in your head. That is a trait of an artist. So I find it fascinating. I mean, we don't consider ourselves in the beginning, entrepreneurs, right? We just have an idea, we want to execute on it. You today don't consider yourself an artist. I consider you an artist, right? That's an artist trait. And I think it's just interesting how we don't consider ourselves these things until you say it out loud and someone else has to tell you what it is. But, with that being said,
I mean, I think you're an artist, but you just don't think that because you're not physically putting it all together. Like, so I believe like an artist is a visionary.
Right.
for sure.
Right. So at the end of the day, I mean, you look at some of this stuff in an art gallery, you're like, what the fuck is that? But it's worth fucking $20 million. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's the vision, it's the concept behind it, it's what it means. And so you are an artist. You just you're not one who puts ink to paper. You just take idea to reality.
And like an artist, you put a deal together.
Yeah.
You're bringing people together, and it's like, all right, that's an
That's
art
why it's
form,
called the art of a deal, right?
right? People get paid a lot of money for that type of art, which has no pictures or colors. It's just bringing people together.
Do you what does personal development take a role in your life? Are you a reader? Are you a watcher? Like, where do you see yourself as far as how you try to make yourself better with people who are in the entrepreneurial world, people who are successful? Like, how do you avidly study that, or do you not?
I'm definitely not a reader. I'm a watcher. I'm more audio when it comes to that part. There is so much good stuff out there on social media. I mean, during those 5 months, I had, half a dozen or so people that I would lean on, I would go to, and just during the process, as I was stripped down to the studs looking to rebuild myself and just figure out the best ways to go about doing it.
Is there anyone that you attribute some of this to, like any of your success, like someone who maybe you were watching them, listening to them, frequently, like that you would give any of your thoughts to or any of your push to?
Not on social media. I would say my boy John, my best friend, who back in April of last year, when I had like my low, it was just like, I got you. Invest in yourself, believe in yourself, and you got this. I know you got this. The hardest, like, invest in yourself.
What does John do for a living?
John is he's military, still active, and
Discipline.
so he got into the watch business years ago. No experience, no nothing, and now he's buying and selling $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 watches like it's nothing. So discipline, yeah.
Consistency.
Yeah, he's like a Jocko. Like, bad
Jocko?
things happen, good.
Like Jocko Willings? Jocko?
Makes you tougher. The SEAL,
Yeah, Jocko Willings. Great book. Dichotomy of
he's
Leadership.
that kind of guy, and that's my best friend. So he's my guy.
It's important to have people like that in your corner.
In this day and age, with wife, with active kids, with multiple businesses, with highs, with lows, with getting kicked in the nuts every freaking day and smiling and welcoming it. All right, something good's happening. I can feel it. It's the bad before the good.
Do you think that you reached your lowest because you were stagnant? Because you exited your business, you didn't have like a direction?
That was part of it. It was, I mean, I got to play a lot of golf during that time. I would play, 80, 90 rounds a year.
Oh, jealous.
And it was, it was my sanctuary at the time until it became my torture chamber.
It's a torture chamber every time I step foot on a golf course, so it's fine because I can't hit the ball straight. But
Yeah, for me, it was
But the
just,
connections you make are ridiculous.
and I caddied at Eagle Oaks for like 13, 14 years. So I was around, I went from shoveling driveways to carrying clubs for the people I wanted to be. I wanted to be a member of the club. I wanted to golf during the week and the weekends. I wanted what they had.
yeah, that's what I would suggest for any young cat trying to get into business. Who's realize that they want to be someone, be on their own is caddying. The amount of connections that you meet and the interpersonal skills that you develop in that time is.
Kids these days, bro, they don't got that hustle.
I know, but shit. I wish I did that as a kid, to
My older son just started playing golf like 2 months ago. Him and his buddies, 13 and a half years old.
Great time to start.
That's when I started. I played with him like 3 Sundays ago for the first time ever. And he played like crap, but he got to see me bang the ball. And, you know, I'm telling him, all right, I'm aiming at that tree. I used to be a really, really good stick. I don't play that much anymore, but I could still I can make the ball move. And I'm telling him what I'm going to do. And I do it. And he's like, whoa, good shot, Dad. So it was, that was extremely special. But for any young kid, you know, wanting to get a job, there's nothing better than a caddy.
No.
It's paid education.
Yeah.
Like college, you're almost better off not going to college and caddying at a ridiculous course and making friends.
Right.
Because you'll get a job there. 100%.
Your network is your net worth, right?
Absolutely.
I've gotten multiple jobs caddying.
All right. So, loved having you on the show. Definitely going to be following Vintage very closely. I saw some of your furniture before we got started. Absolutely gorgeous.
Appreciate it.
If anybody is interested in some custom copper furniture or decor or catch up on what you're doing, how could they find you?
I could be found on Instagram at vintage_metals. Vintage_metal_designs. And website is www.vintagemetaldesigns.com. And thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure having you. Looking forward to your success.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thanks, boys.
Hey, guys, if you're not subscribed, check us out. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. Hit us a like, hit us a comment, and share.
Follow and subscribe. Thanks, guys.